Oh, sorry. Yeah, so thanks so much for being here with us, everyone. Really excited to be here and share some information about language planning and a nation-building approach to language revitalization. So I'm going to start with a quick introduction of myself. My name is Thea Harris. I'm a language programs coordinator at First Peoples Cultural Council. I've been there for a couple of years now, and I'm so excited to, like I said, be sharing this information with you. I take care of a couple programs as a part of my job. I actually work with the language planning program, the language revitalization planning program. So this is a information program that's very near and dear to my heart. I also take care of the silent speakers program. Again, I work at FPCC, and I'm calling in today from Shiano territory, but my family is actually a couple hours north from me, from Snuneymuxw territory. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll turn it over to my colleague here to introduce herself, Magie-Mae.
Thank you so much, and so happy to be here as well. My name is Magie-Mae Kwiasuk-Lamia, and my lineage is from Wasanich territory down on Vancouver Island, but also Tlingit from Southeast Alaska. And I'm happy to live and work on the Smalga-speaking people's territory in Prince Rupert, BC. I work with First Peoples Cultural Council as a language revitalization coach. And although we're not traveling to communities currently, we've been available to connect with communities throughout BC through the phone or video chat and other channels. And the role of a coach really is to support communities in building their language initiatives through strategic language planning, offering resources and program information, and access to language revitalization tools and templates, and any other ongoing project support. So really happy to share this presentation with you with my colleague Thea.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Magie-Mae. And I think we'll go into our next slide here. So before we start, I just want to just start our portion of this webinar by acknowledging the territory on which our FPCC office is located on. So First Peoples Cultural Council is grateful to have our offices located in the beautiful traditional unceded territory of the Wasanich people. Also, just want to acknowledge too that we're grateful, so grateful for the speakers who hold on to their languages, and we really honor you and appreciate you, all your work and in carrying your language forward. We really honor and respect you. Also want to acknowledge that we're calling in from different locations. So like I said, I'm calling in from Shiano territory today. And again, just really excited and grateful to be here. So I have a bit of an agenda here. So today we're going to talk about the First Peoples Cultural Council. You might be familiar with us, but we're going to share a little bit really briefly about who we are. We're going to talk about planning for language revitalization, why it's important. And we're also going to talk about a nation building approach to language revitalization. And then we're going to leave some time for questions, comments, and dialogue at the end. So if you do have any questions, hopefully jot them down or keep them in the back of your mind, and we'll have some great conversation at the end. So just going to share a little bit about FPCC. So we're an Indigenous-led Crown corporation. We've been established since 1990 when political leaders decided it was a good idea to ensure that there would be ongoing support of language, arts, heritage, and culture in BC, and we were established. We serve 34 languages, 204 nations, and urban Indigenous populations all across BC. We provide funding and training, professional development, resources, and coaching to support arts, language, and cultural heritage revitalization across the province. To learn more about our arts and heritage programs, we encourage you to check out our website. There's lots to check out on there, but we do encourage you to check it out. You can see it at the bottom of the slide there, fpcc.ca. And you can also see what funding is available at any time on our website. We also encourage people to subscribe to our newsletter. It's on our website homepage, just right at the very bottom if you scroll down. This will keep you informed and up to date on current funding opportunities and other things as well. Some of our exciting events, things like Indigifest that we had online this year, and things like that. So that's a little bit about us. And this piece, a piece that I'm very passionate about and something that we certainly have to share before diving into the topic of language revitalization is our vision. Our vision as an organization is that BC's Indigenous languages, cultures, and arts are thriving. The cultural knowledge expressed through Indigenous languages, culture, and arts is recognized and embraced across the province. This vision really speaks to me, so we had to make sure to include it. And it really informs our work in terms of language revitalization, of course, and the revitalization of culture and heritage and arts as well. So.
Thank you, Thea, for laying that foundation to the work that we do and starting us off in a good way. Bringing back the concept of the theme for this conference is language is wellness. Our languages, arts, and culture are the foundation of our identity. And Indigenous people today are healing from colonialism through the revitalization of their arts, language, and cultural heritage. Indigenous arts and cultural heritage are living, and they have grown and adapted to these contemporary circumstances. They connect us to the land. They are essential to our health and well-being. And this is why knowledge holders and elders say that working to revitalize our languages is one of the most important and fruitful ways to promote healthy, self-determining nations, communities, and people. At First Peoples, we believe that language is a right and everyone should have the opportunity to learn and speak their language. So today we just want to talk about how we can get there and how the CCP process is one way to systematically prioritize language and culture. But once it's a priority, how can you make meaningful progress? So that's a little bit of what we'll cover today. Strategic planning for each specific domain is one way to help ensure that key strategies, tasks, or milestones are identified in order to reach the larger community-wide goals. Often the planning process requires its own plan. So you see additional strategic departmental plans developed based on the goals of the CCP. Some other plans that you may be familiar with are the land use plans, an economic development or corporate plan, health plans, and many nations are now doing marine planning as well. So creating these types of departmental plans will help the team to identify the key tasks or milestones that are needed to take place for that specific domain. Developing these plans within the CCP will help to keep the planning process moving forward and create some steps to meet key deliverables that may be outlined in your CCP. So the area we're going to review today relates to planning for language revitalization. And although you may find that a lot of these concepts that we present can be related to other sectors as well. So looking at the areas of language planning, language plans are intended to capture the community's vision for the future of their Indigenous language and set strategic direction for their language programs. The intended outcome for the community is to develop a fully costed, multi-year strategic language plan. Language plans guide the work of the language revitalization and community. They really provide a framework for how a community will work towards the vision of their language. And the language plan defines the processes and direction for language revitalization. Language plans empower communities to set funding agendas that match their goals and to advocate for long-term strategic investment for the revitalization of Indigenous languages. And also, we want to note that plans shouldn't be based on a set budget limit, but budgets are born from the developed plan. Language plans are a powerful advocacy tool that support government and other funders to understand the communities, that communities are the experts of their language. Strategic language planning will include actions required to achieve goals and outline how resources will be mobilized to pursue specific language revitalization strategies. It also describes the shared accountability for the language working group, leadership, and community So this guides the implementation of the language plan and how the outcomes are monitored and evaluated. So we're going to share a nation building approach to language planning. And this information comes out of the research conducted by the Harvard Project on American Native Economic Development and the Native Nations Institute. The research showed two approaches to nation development: the standard approach, which you see on the left there, and the nation building approach. So in the standard approach, decision-making is short-term and non-strategic. Person or organizations other than the nation are setting the development agendas. Development is treated primarily as an economic problem. Indigenous culture may be viewed as an obstacle to development, and elected leadership serves as a primary distributor of resources. So the standard approach to nation building has been the result of a legacy of harmful colonial policies dictating and controlling the activities of First Nations for decades. As Indigenous nations assert sovereignty and agency, research has shown a movement away from the standard approach to development in favor of an Indigenous-led nation-building approach that is self-determined and fosters healthy economic and social development. So what does a nation building approach look like? So you'll see on the right side there, in the nation building approach, nations assert decision-making power. They back that up they back up that power with effective governing institutions. Governing institutions match Indigenous political culture, and decision-making is strategic, with leaders serving the nation builders and mobilizers. In presenting this approach, the goal is to support communities to move from a project-by-project model to an integrated plan-based model. So a language plan shifts communities from that standard approach of reacting to language loss to a nation-building approach of proactively building a future of language vitality. With a language plan, you can address the challenges of program stability and training needs for capacity development at the community level. So we're going to go through these principles and share some examples of how this nation-building approach can be a strength-based process for language planning. I'll hand it back over to Thea.
Yeah, thanks, Magie-Mae. So the first point that Magie-Mae talked about, sovereignty, it's the first step in the nation building process, and it's nations asserting sovereignty and decision-making power. So what does that look like in the context of language planning? And we have an example here. Perhaps it looks like a language declaration. So here's an example of the Syilx Okanagan language declaration. It says, "We, the Syilx Okanagan people, have spoken our Insilcheen language since time immemorial, and we are responsible for the protection, revitalization, and advancement of our Insilcheen language." So a very inspiring declaration asserting that decision-making power and responsibility that says that we are in control of our language. This is particularly significant in the Canadian context. Although Canada is home to many Indigenous languages, French and English are the only official languages. A language declaration is one way to formally assert the community's Indigenous language to be of primary importance. The Okanagan Nation Alliance asserted their sovereignty by creating this language declaration as an expression of Syilx legal principles. This tells you that that you're working with that the nation is the decision maker. And nations that have been able to assert decision-making power or control have significantly increased their chances of sustainable development. The second step in the nation building approach is to ensure the nation supports their sovereignty with effective governing institutions and systems, which supports and strengthens language capacity. The standard approach to language revitalization is maybe expecting a few people to carry out this important work, but a nation building approach involves all domains, several strategies and staff with varying skill sets who will support and inspire each other to move a language plan forward. In order to be successful, a language plan will require a whole language team to carry out the tasks. For too long, and in many communities, the responsibility of language revitalization has fallen to a few people, a few language champions and key people. But involving a team can help put a language plan into effect. Team members can support each other in the work and provide inspiration to the entire community to move a plan forward. The nation building approach illustrates one possible example of a language team. So you can see that on the right here. The left may be one approach where a few people are, key people. And in the nation building approach, again, there's whole systems that support the decision-making power, the sovereignty of the nation, and support that language declaration. The third step is ensuring that governing institutions and systems and departments match the Indigenous political culture and traditions. This will ensure that your governance framework and systems are in alignment with your cultures, traditions, peoples, needs of the community, and Indigenous ideas. Incorporating values that are important to community can help guide the planning process. This also helps create a sustainable and recognizable process for community members. Within a language plan, the values or principles that often speak to the teachings of their ancestors and wisdoms and knowledges from our rich traditions. Values guide our thoughts, our ethics, our beliefs, and they can provide wisdom and strength in challenging situations. So here is another example of the NWT Aboriginal Languages Framework, which sets out 5 essential elements. And this sets the direction for language revitalization. They are actions, knowledge, attitudes, environments, and beliefs, which are all needed to ensure that the NWT Aboriginal language revitalization efforts and services are successful.
Thank you for sharing, Thea. On to one of the next principles is strategic orientation. So this speaks to strategic planning and how it can help to determine the current language landscape. So community can then outline where they want to go and how they're going to get there. It empowers community to move from short-term thinking to focusing on strategic decision-making and long-term vision of the Indigenous language. Decisions can then be made with long-term priorities in mind. So a language plan will identify where you are now, and this is done through determining the situation of the language in the community. Language plans also identify where you want to go, so identifying the community's vision and goals for the community language revitalization, and determining how you'll get there. And this is identified through the actions within the language plan, so breaking down your goals to specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound actions. And the last concept is, how do you know you have arrived? So what are your success indicators? Are you looking at the quantity of people that participated in a program, how many mentor apprentice teams you have, how many are in attendance at the language nest, the proficiency of the speakers, did their number of words or sentences that they can do increase? Or are you looking at more descriptive and conceptual data, more like storytelling? At the heart of this work is the community mobilization, and leading it comes from public-spirited leadership. So when public-spirited leadership is at the forefront, leaders can inspire community buy-in and mobilization. Public-spirited leadership is transformative, navigating the nation from that status quo project to create language awareness and move towards a holistic, innovative, and effective strategies that can mobilize the community towards fluency of their Indigenous language. So these are all the areas within the diagram here that people have envisioned. And while this is not a comprehensive list, it is one representation of what an overall plan could include. So you can clearly see that not one language coordinator or person is responsible through the whole process, but each family, employee within the organization can see where they fit within this work. So individuals who recognize the need for fundamental change and can engage with community to make that happen. There is typically a group of individuals who recognize the need for fundamental change in the way things are done and can bring the community along with them, building that future. So that's the spirit of public spirited leadership. So once you have the where, the what, the how, and why, language planning will be a continuous process. Your plan will be a living document to be updated on a regular basis as you achieve or need to adjust your goals. Imagine a completed plan that covers all aspects of life and what that could include. So we're encouraging you to incorporate and use your natural planning methods that come from within your language, culture, lands, and waters. This helps to create a sustainable and recognizable process for your people. And FPCC has assembled a guide developed from various First Nations perspectives, and some of these will be useful and some may not be. So take what you need and leave what you don't need. And with that, we just want to let the group know that we are available for questions and support. So feel free to reach out to us at any time. And we hope you can appreciate the fast and furious presentation today with the limited time that we have. And we do have a couple moments for questions. If anyone has any comments or questions or dialogue, feel welcome to put in the chat or give us a wave.
This is George Harris here. Can you hear me?
Hi, George. Yes,
Hi.
thank you for coming.
You got me emotional because you're talking about our language. It's really, really important to me. In my nation's Ceremonies is making great efforts to try to revitalize our language. And it's difficult. Our people are, and my immediate family, my children and my grandchildren wants to follow the traditional way of life. And I really am grateful for that. They got lots of their teachings from my mom, my grandmother, grandparents, my dad, and my late mother-in-law, and other people, aunties and uncles. Our Indigenous people, it's important to talk about our culture and our heritage as it relates to our language. Our sacred ceremonies is important also. I wrote a piece a little while ago, about 2 days ago, that I'm really glad that our children are witnessing some of the sacred ceremonies that they're allowed to see, so that it'll be part of their life. The longhouse, for one, is I really like the way our speakers speak in our language when we do our business in the longhouse, our sacred ceremonies and sacred work that we do. Our traditional way of life is also important. As we're speaking here today, I just seen a 11-man canoe go by. It's out of season, but I don't know why they're out there. Maybe it's students that are out there. I couldn't see too good, but I give thanks for that to be happening as part of our way of life. Language immersion is really, really vitally important. I'm involved right now in the Ceremonies community school, but it's developing programs which I do support, but I'd give anything to sit with our elders in relation to them speaking our language in a room where they don't speak any English. Language immersion is important. I have a scar in my hand that's from speaking my language at the residential school, because my grandmother never spoke any English. All she spoke was Halkami'inam. And when I went to residential school, that's what I did. I spoke our language, and I got caught speaking it more than once, so I was punished. All our elders that are knowledgeable of our Halkami'inam language are being lost every year. in the last 10 years, we probably, in Ceremonies, we probably lost 10 or 15 elders that are really knowledgeable about our language. And I'd give anything, like I said, to listen to them speak.
Mhm.
Yeah, I said this few days ago. I'd give anything to be lectured by elder, whether I did something bad or something good, or to be a reminder of who I am as a person. I'd give anything to be lectured by an elder. When I was a young child, even though I know who I was, when I was disciplined as a young child, they would say, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are your people? Where are you from? Do you understand Okanagan language? Do you have Snow Wyatt? Do you have the teachings?" That's what they'd ask me. And even if I did, why they asked that is to remind me of what I have and what they've told me. And they'd ask me, "Where are you going? In your future, where are you going?"
Mhm.
You know, so I'm really appreciate your work that you're doing. And I'm going to start a new approach to our Ceremonies community school. And they're asking me to go up there now, and I haven't gone up there yet because I've been busy. You know, also our language is not only in the connection of our people, but it's connection of our land, our water, our sea, the birds, the fish, animals, and the spirit of the land. That's who we are, you know. And I just want to say hi, Scott, to you for your good work that you're doing. I really appreciate it. But that's my little talk right now with regard to our language. Hi, Scott.
HKCM Elder George for sharing. We really appreciate those words and sharing the good work of Stamanis First Nation, and they're so lucky to have you walking beside them in this work. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you, and thank you, HKCM. Thea.